The best way to learn how to make games is by practicing and creating more games. That way you will learn how game development works, which will give you ideas how to create your games. I'm running a limited promotion for my course where you will learn how to create games like Candy Crush, Angry Birds, and a bunch of other hyper-casual games, which will be a very good practice for you. The price is ridiculously low, that's why the offer is limited to 100 people only. Click the link in the description to check it out. And oh, the offer is time limited as well, so make sure you act right now. What it is, people! So the channel is growing a lot lately, which I really like, and a lot of new beginners are coming to the channel. That's why I have been more focused on beginner tutorials. This is also one of them. It's a simple game, so if you are intermediate, you can just skip the video. This is not for you, but you're just starting out, watch the video. You will learn a lot of cool things, and for those of you guys who want to learn more in detail, learn more intermediate, I have courses, you can check it out on my website. Anyways, let's get into the game and see what the game that we are going to create, what is the game. So let's take a look at the game. Anyways, when I hit the play button, you will see it's a Frogger game, the famous one, the hyper casual one. So we have all of these cars, we need to pass with the frog, simple, yada yada yada. We get points when we go on the top. It's very simple, but for beginners it is a lot to learn. So yeah, this is that game. That's it, okay? So yeah, again, if you are intermediate, you can just skip the video. This will be boring for you, but if you're just starting, this will be a very, very, very useful tutorial for you to watch. You can also download the complete project and the videos, or you're just watching the video, and the assets that I'm using. Link will be in the description below. Smash like, smash subscribe, and let's get into the game. Okay, let's make this a quick one. This is a 2D project. It's a new project, of course, and the first thing that I'm gonna do is go here in the scenes, then I'm simply gonna change that to gameplay. For some reason, there is no need to do this, but I am weird, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is import the assets right here in the sprites. If you want to use these same assets, link will be in the description below, and you can download them from my website. You're used to that. I mean, I don't even have to tell you anyways. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is create our road, which is simply gonna be this right here. So I'm gonna put this is our road, voila, there you go. But I am of course going to scale it up. So I'm gonna say 1.2 for the X and 1.2 for the Y axis. And let's go here in the game tab, and I'm gonna change this to full HD. What is this? It's full HD, so yeah. Actually, I need to set this to 1.4 instead of 0.2 so that it takes the whole screen. And I'm gonna go here on the color in the sprite render. I'm gonna click here on the color palette, which is gonna pop up this pop-up window for the color. In the hexadecimal, I'm going to type 8D17F6. Simple. And voila, here is our road. We have it right there. Now, of course, we do need to have these dividers. So I'm gonna take this divider, put it here on the road. And by the way, the road will be on order in layer 0 and the divider will be on order in layer 1. In short, order in layer will determine the order in layer. So if I say, for example, the road is on order in layer 0 and divider is on 1, then divider will be rendered on top of the road because it's on 1 and this one is on 0. If I say -1 for the divider, you see we don't see it anymore in the game tab because it is now rendered behind. So I'm going to put here 1, and I'm going to take the scale on the x-axis. I'm going to put it at 1 as well. Let me just see if I put this one at 1. So yeah, this is good. This is good for the divider. So, okay, the first divider, I'm going to set that at -3.45. This is the first divider. I'm going to duplicate it because we're going to have multiple of these. And the second one is going to be at -1. Let's say 65. So this is the second one. We're gonna have the third one. I'm gonna duplicate it. And by the way, I duplicate it by holding Command and pressing D. On Windows, it is Control and D. So Command and D. And the second one is gonna be at, let's say, 0.15. Now we're gonna have the third one and the fourth one. So this is the third one, this is the fourth one. So this one, I'm gonna say 1.95. And the last one is gonna be, let me just duplicate it. So the last one is going to be, and let me just zoom out so I can go here, and probably I can put the last one somewhere around here. Something like this can do, so that we can see it still. We see it still on top, but yeah, it is there. It is there. So this is for our dividers and for the road. Now the next thing to do is import the frog and put it here in the gameplay. If you notice, we don't see the frog because it is on order in layer 0. Sometimes, even though two game objects are on the same order in layer, one is rendered on top of the other. So I'm gonna take the frog and set it on 4, and voila, there it is. I'm also going to click here on add component, which is going to allow me to filter for circle collider 2D. And if I go here in the scene tab and zoom on the frog, you will see the circle around it, you see? Now I am going to resize it. So let's say 0.44 for the circle. Voila, this is the circle for the frog. And I'm also going to go here and attach a rigid body 2D on the frog. Now, one thing that we will need to do is the following. If I hit the play button now, pay attention how the frog is gonna fall down. You see, it fell down. Why? Because of the rigid body 2D. The rigid body 2D is applying gravity to the frog. So the body type is dynamic, which means it will be affected by gravity in physics. What we need to do is click here on this drop-down list and select here the kinematic. So go here, click on the drop-down list and click on kinematic, and voila, there you go. So if I hit the play button now, we will see the frog standing on its place. What does that mean? Kinematic is not affected by gravity. It is affected by physics, so we can apply forces to it and all of that good stuff, but it will not start to fall down because gravity is not affecting it. Okay, now let's apply some physics on it. So let's go here and create a new folder. So I'm gonna say scripts here for the folder. And I'm gonna right click here and create a frog script. That is a C# script. So frog, like this, and attach it on the frog game object. So drag it and drop it on the frog game object. And of course, Unity needs to lag every single time for some reason. I don't know why. But anyways, I'm gonna take the frog, put it here at the center, something like this. Let's say -5, -5. And this is where the frog is initially. So what do we need to do for the frog? Of course, first open the script. So let me go here, double click on it, open it in Visual Studio or in Monodevelop, what you're using, or I don't know, in your notepad, whatever you're using. So yeah, moving forward. For the frog, we simply need a reference to the rigid body. So we can say here, private rigid body 2D, my body, this is how I'm going to call it. And in the awake function, I'm simply going to say my body is equal to get component, rigid body 2D component. And of course, I would not be me if I did not forget to turn off my fans on my laptop, because then they disrupt me, they take, you know, you hear the fans working in the background. I don't want that, so that's why I put them here on default to run like this so that you cannot hear them in the background, okay? So what are we gonna do next? Well, here I'm gonna remove the start function, and inside of the update one, so in the update, we're gonna get the input. And let me just go here and say if input, so if input.get key down, this is gonna detect when we press a certain key down, and the key is gonna be key code right arrow. So right arrow. So when we press on the right arrow, we're simply gonna say my body dot move position, and here we're gonna say my body dot position plus vector2 dot right. This is when we go to the right side, when we press the right arrow key. I'm gonna duplicate this a couple of more times, you see. And let me just go here and tag the update function and also tag the class so that I know where it ends. So here I'm gonna say class, voila. So, and actually let me just make sure that this is the class. Yes, it is. So here when we go to the right side, we're gonna say my body move position. If I hover over, it says moves the rigid body to position, and it will move it to the position that we have here. We're using the current position of the rigid body plus where we want to go. So this here is gonna be the left arrow, and here I'm gonna say vector2 left, which means it will move us 1 unit to the left, and this one is gonna move us 1 unit to the right side. This right here, we're gonna say up arrow, and here I'm gonna say vector2 up, and this one is going to be the down arrow, and this is going to be vector2 down. So basically, this is going to move us 1 unit. 1 unit means this. If I go here and select the frog, if I zoom on it, so if I zoom on the frog, pay attention, I'm gonna take the frog, and currently it's on -5. If I say now, if I move the frog instead of -4, so if I move it and say -4, you see, it moved 1 unit, -3, -2, -1, you see, that is 1 unit. Basically setting it from -5 to -4, that is 1 unit. And this vector2 up, for example, is, you see, shorthand for writing vector2. 0 for the x, 1 for the y. This is 0 for the, or actually 1 for the y, 0 for the, 1 for the x, 0 for the y. And this one here is -1 for the x, 0 for the y. You get my point. So this is what we are doing here. Now below here, I'm going to add a code. So if you want to use Android and you only want to move the frog forward, because this game is for Android, it's a hyper casual game. It was a popular one. I don't know if it's still popular, it's not important, but it was for Android. What you can do here is you can say if input get mouse button down, and you can get the mouse button, or you can say here 0, so get the mouse button 0. This will also get when you click with your finger. So when you touch on the screen with the finger, this will also register that code right here. And here, what you're gonna do is you're gonna say my body dot velocity, or actually, excuse me, my body move position, and we are gonna say here my body dot position plus vector to up. This is if you want to create your game on Android and only publish it on Android, or only use it on Android, and you're only able to move the frog forward. So this is for what you're gonna use it. And since we're using this in the update, we can test this out right away. I can go here and hit the play button. And what's gonna happen now is that when we move the frog, you see, it's moving 1 unit. If you select the frog, currently it's on position -3. If I move it 1 position up, now it's -2, -1, 0. Then it moves 1, 2, 3. This is that 1 unit. So this is the 1 unit in Unity that we are using. So now we have the frog, and I was moving it on the arrows because here we are detecting when we move it on the arrows. Simple as that. So the next thing to do is take our car. So I'm gonna go here into assets and scenes, or actually, what am I doing in sprites, man? Go into the car, or actually move the car here, and I'm gonna take the car and set the order in layer to 3. What I'm also going to do is copy the name of the car, go here under tags. I'm going to click on the drop down list and click here add tag, and click on the plus button, and here add the car tag and click save, which is going to add our tag here. So now I can select it from the drop down list and click on that car tag so that the car has the car tag. I'm also going to go here and attach a box collider 2D as a rigid body, and also set it to be a trigger, because now in the code we will use isTrigger to detect that collision in the code. We will see that in a moment. And here for the another component, I'm going to say add a rigid body, and we need to do the same thing as we did for the frog. So change it from dynamic to kinematic, or otherwise it will not work because the car will start falling down. Now we will also need to create a prefab out of the frog, but before that, let's go here in the scripts and right click and create a C# script. I'm going to call this one car and attach it on the car game object. So now I can create a prefab out of it. I'm going to go here and create a folder and call it prefabs. And in order to create a prefab, simply drag and drop the car inside of that folder and you're good to go. And for the car script, what I'm gonna do here is the following. We need a private rigid body 2D, which is going to be my body. We need a reference to it because we're gonna use it to move the car. And let me just give a little bit of space so that I can move this up. One of you guys have asked me, why am I adding this? Because I can move this up and down and you can see better the code that I'm typing. So below that, we need a public float speed, which by default, I'm going to say it's equal to 1. We're also going to have a public float minimum speed, which I'm going to say 8, and a public float maximum speed, which is going to be equal to 12. And in the awake function, this is where I like to call my functions for get component. So I'm going to say my body is equal to get component. So get component, rigid body 2D, which is going to get the attached component from the game object. And inside of our start function, I'm simply going to say speed is equal to a random range between the minimum speed and the maximum speed. So what is this? Well, basically it's gonna randomize the speed of the car. So every car is gonna have a random speed. And here we're using the minimum, which is 8 for the minimum speed, and maximum speed, which is 12. So it's gonna give us a number between these two. So now in our update function, what we can do is simply say here, or actually I'm gonna use a fixed update. Fixed update is not called every frame in a second, it's called like every second or third frame, so a fixed number of time intervals and not every frame like the update function. But don't worry about that right now, you don't need to know that. Just change the function to fixed update, and here I'm simply going to say vector to forward is going to be equal to new vector2, and here I'm going to say transform dot right dot x and transform dot right dot y. Why am I using right? What is this right? Well, if I hover over, it will say the red axis of the transform in world space. If I go here, if I select the car, pay attention, the red axis, you see the red one? It's this one right here. It moves left and right, so this is the red one, you see? This is that axis that we want to get. That's why I'm saying here right and the x of that axis and y also, so that it stays on the y position as well. Because now I'm simply going to say my body dot move position, and here I'm simply going to say my body dot position plus forward, and here I'm going to multiply that with time dot fixed delta time and multiply that with the speed. Now I'm using here fixed delta time because the interval in seconds at which physics and other fixed frame rate updates like mono behaviors fixed update are performed. It doesn't change. This number doesn't change. It's a very small number. It doesn't change. That's why I'm using to smooth things out. That's why I'm using it to smooth things out. So the next thing that we can do is simply test this out to see if it actually works. So if I go now and hit the play button, we will see the car running. So notice now when we run the game, you see the car simply went out of the screen. If I hit the play button again and go back in the scene view, you see the car is gone and it will be gone forever. So we see that works as well. So what I'm going to do now is delete the car from the hierarchy because we don't need it. We created a prefab out of it. I'm going to right click here and create an empty game object, and this is going to be our spawner parent, and reset. So right click and reset its positions. And I'm also going to right click on it, and here this is going to be our spawner 1. We're going to have 2, 3, and 4. So our spawner 1, I'm going to select it. The position X is going to be negative 9.8 and the position Y is going to be negative 3.68. For our spawner 2, and I'm going to change the name for this one, I'm going to say spawner 2, the position is going to be 9.8 and Y is going to be negative 1.14, and also the Z rotation is going to be 180. And you saw, pay attention here on these arrows, how they changed. You see the arrow here, the right one is pointing to the right side. And when I change it like this, so the red one now is pointing to the left side, because we're going to use this to spawn our cars. Now here, this is going to be our spawner 3. The position X is going to be negative 9.8. And the position Y is going to be 1.36. And lastly, we have our spawner 4. So here I'm going to say spawner 4. The position X of the spawner 4 is going to be negative, or actually 9.8, excuse me. And the position Y is going to be 4.05, and the rotation Z is going to be 180 because we're going to spawn our cars starting from the left side. So now we need to create our spawner script. I need to go back here in scripts and right click, and not in the scenes, what I'm doing here. Right click and create a C# script. This is going to be a spawner script like this, and select all these spawner points. So from spawner 1 to 4, and attach the spawner script on them. Of course, double click on it and open it here in Visual Studio Notepad, or even use your notebook. I don't know what you're doing because I cannot see you. I mean, I am here talking to you, but this may be far in the future, which is creepy. So anyways, we are gonna have a public float spawn delay, which I'm gonna say 8 or 0.85 is the default value. We're also going to have a public game object car prefab, and we're going to have a private float next time to spawn. Now, in order for this to work, we need to attach the car prefab. So we need to go back here in Unity, select all these spawner game objects, and click here on where it says empty game object. Click on the little circle, which is at the right side. And here from the assets folder, I'm going to select the car, which is the prefab that we created like a moment ago. So now that we have all of that, what we are going to do is we don't need the start function. We need the update one. And here I'm going to say void spawn car. And what's going to happen here, I'm going to say instantiate car prefab at the transform position using transform.rotation. This is why using the transform rotation, you see this right here, this is why it's important that we set these spawners, for example, spawner 2 and spawner 4, that we set their Z rotation at 180, because I will show you in a second why. In the update, we're simply gonna say here, if our next time to spawn is less than or equal to time.time, and time.time is the time since we started our game. And if this time is less than or equal to this time, we are going to call spawn car so that we can spawn a car. And next we're going to say next time to spawn. So next time to spawn is equal to time.time plus the spawn delay. So now we are delaying every single time we go through this if statement or this if statement. So when this is true, if our next time to spawn is less than or equal to the time.time, which is the time since the game has started, so time in seconds after we run our game, and then we're going to spawn a new car. Then we're going to say next time to spawn is equal to the current time plus the spawn delay, which every single time we will delay for this time. And if I go back here now, and if I test it out, so if I hit the play button, you will see now the cars are going to start spawning from the side, you see? And pay attention, why is important if I don't set 180 for spawner 2 and 4, you will see now, if I go back in the scene, where these cars are going to be spawned. You see, it's spawning the cars to the right side. It's not spawning them on the left side. That's why we need to say 180 for the Z. Because here in the instantiate, we are using its rotation to determine the direction where the car is going to be spawned. So simple as that. So this is what we are doing. Now we have one issue. First of all, if I run the game and I play it, the frog cannot be hit by a car. So that's one issue we need to fix. Another issue is these cars are, you see, they're getting spawned infinitely and they're just leaving, they're left in our game. We don't want that. We do not want that. What we want is the following. I'm gonna right click here and create an empty game object, and this is going to be our collector parent like this, and I'm gonna right click and reset its position. The next thing I'm gonna do is right click on it and create an empty game object. This is going to be collector1, which I'm gonna move right here, and I'm going to attach a box collider 2D on it and resize it on the y-axis. And I'm also going to check this is trigger checkbox, and I'm going to duplicate it and move this one over here. And this is going to be our collector 2. So this one can be on 14 and this one can be on -14. Not 15, but -14, okay? So what we need to do now, make sure that both is trigger are checked. So now we can go here and right click in the scripts and create a C# script, and this is going to be our collector. So what I'm gonna do is select both collectors 1 and 2 and add component and attach the collector script. And this one is going to be simple. What we simply need to do is the following. Go here and we need to type void on trigger enter 2D. And here I'm going to say target. And here I'm going to say if target.tag is equal to the car, what we can do is we can say target.gameObject.setActive is now equal to false. You see? And if I go now in the game and hit the play button, pay attention in the scene tab. When I go back in the scene, you see the cars, when they hit these spawners, they disappear. You see, they disappear. They're still in the hierarchy, but they disappear. Now, what we can also do to make our hierarchy more clean so that we don't have all of these car clones is we can do the following. I can say something like transform target.gameObject.transform.parent is equal to transform, like this. So that we set the parent of that car to this transform or the collector holding this script. Because now when we start to deactivate and pay attention, they are not going to clutter inside of the hierarchy. Instead, we are going to remove them from the hierarchy. You see, we're removing them. We have the cars that are currently active, that's okay. But you see, new cars are being put here, you see, put inside of every collector. So basically that's that. Now the next thing that we can do is go inside of our frog script, and I can copy this. I can safely copy this and go here in the frog script, and here, if we collide with the car, we're gonna restart the game. And in order to restart the game, we simply need to say unity engine dot scene management dot scene manager load scene, and this is gonna load the scene that we pass here. And what I'm gonna do is call again the scene manager, get active scene name, which is gonna reload the current scene that we are in. And this is how you load a scene. So you use scene management, scene manager, load scene, which is gonna load a scene with the given name, but we can also get the current active scene that we are in, dot the name, and this will return the name. You see, returns the name of the scene that we are currently in. So now when we touch the car, we will restart the game. And I can show you that right now. So if I hit the play button and try to go here, if the car touches me, you see, bam, we restarted the game. What is the next step to do? Well, the next step is to create a goal and also a score. So what I'm gonna do here is right click and create a UI text. I'm also gonna take the canvas and rename it to UI canvas. Set here the screen space to camera and attach the main camera. Don't worry about all of this now. You don't need to know every single detail, but just go and continue with the game. So here I'm gonna say score text. And also here I'm gonna say constant pixel size or scale with screen size, which is gonna be 1920 by 1080, which is the full HD resolution. I'm gonna take the score text, set the width and the height to 300 by 300, set the alignment at the center, and also set here the color to white and resize the text. So I'm gonna resize the font, something like this. Do I see it? Where is it? Actually, we don't see it because the canvas also has the order in layer, and we need to say here 5 so that we can see it. So I'm gonna take the score text and resize a little bit more. This is going to be our score like this. Maybe a little bit more, something like this, yeah. And I'm going to set it here 0, 0 for X and Y, and I'm going to move it here up so that we can see the score. And this is the score on top. But we also need here an empty game object for the goal, which I'm gonna call goal, and I'm gonna reset it here. We also need to go here and attach a box collider 2D on the goal and resize it. So resize it on the X like this, and I'm gonna move it here. So when we reach the goal, which is here, we are going to, and also make sure that this is trigger. So is trigger is checked, because now I'm gonna right click here and go and create a C# script for the goal. Because when we reach the goal, we are going to restart our game again, but with the score. So what I'm gonna do now, for the goal here, let me just give a little bit of space, hold enter to, well, do that. And for the goal, what we are gonna do is we're gonna say private game object, and this is going to be our frog player, and also private vector 3, which is going to be our player initial position. And we're gonna have a public text game object, which is going to be, so it's text, not texture, it's text. And this is going to be our score text. And we're going to have a private int score. Now, this text is giving us an error because we need to type here using Unity Engine UI like this. So now in the awake function, I can do the following. I can say this, I can say frog player is equal to game object dot find with tag, and here I'm going to say player like this, and our player initial position is going to be equal to frog player dot transform dot position. Voila, simple as that. So now when we go here inside of on trigger enter, let me duplicate, actually no, I have this. So here I need to say void on trigger enter 2D. I'm going to change collision name to target. And here, if our target.tag is equal to the player, we will need to change the player tag of the frog. So if it's equal to the player, we're going to say target.transform.position is going to be equal to player initial position. Score is going to be equal to plus equals to 100. We're going to add 100 to the score. And we're going to say score text.text is going to be equal to score.toString. This is going to convert the score, which is an integer. It's going to convert it into a string, and then we will be able to, well, use it inside of the text UI element. And the last thing to do is go here and select the frog and tag it here with the player tag. Simple as that. So I can hit the play button right now, and we will see the cars are going here, and well, the car hit me, and I need to go here, try not to get hit by the car again. If I go here, bam, you see, and we have a null reference exception. Why? Well, it really helps that you select the UI element, the score text, and attach it here when you want to use it. That's why we had null reference exception, because we had an empty game object that we were trying to use. So now if I move here with the frog, you will see if I go here on the top, bam, we have score 100. And again, if I move and I pass and I don't die, 200, and we are reset again from our initial position, and 300, and if I die, we restart it back to 0. And this is our game. It was a short one, but it was aimed at beginners. As I said in the beginning of the video, a lot of new people are coming to the channel, and most of them are beginners. So yeah, I want to create more tutorials for you guys so that you have a starting point and you know where to learn, what to learn, so on and so forth. You get the point. This is one of those tutorials. It was a short one. Again, if you want to download the complete project, and the assets link will be in the description below. I don't have something clever to say, so thank you for watching. Smash like, smash subscribe. I will see you guys in another video.